Is it too little too late, or will this latest pivot bring Donald Trump new supporters? Joining us right now, former House Speaker and Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, good to see you.
Good to see you, as always.
Is this, in fact, a new pivot for Donald Trump? Was this your advice?
Well, look, I don't know about that, but he's been pivoting all week. If you look at the tone of his international terrorism speech on Monday, of his inner city law and order and prosperity speech on Tuesday, his speech Wednesday, and now his speech Thursday, his tone all week has been reassuring. It's been calmer. It's working off of teleprompters. And I think that this is a very smart guy. And he clearly was doing some things that weren't working. He took a deep breath. And I think we're now seeing sort of a new plateau of how Trump operates. And I think that he'll probably sustain this for the rest of the campaign. And frankly, bringing in Kellyanne Conway and Steve Bannon are huge assets in moving to this kind of campaign. So I feel pretty good about where he's at right now.
Yeah, and we know that later today he's going to be speaking with the Hispanic community in New York. What does he need to say to some of these groups, the Hispanics, the black community, women, the very important groups that he needs their votes? What do you want to hear him say today, and what are you expecting from that speech today to the Hispanic community?
Well, look, in one sense, in every case, the message has to be the same, which is, I care about you, I understand your lives, I know what you're worried about, I want to be helpful to you on your terms. I mean, people need to know that you care before they care that you know, and so I think that's part of it. In the case of the African-American community, his speech the other night in Milwaukee was historic. This is the first Republican candidate in modern times who is going straight at how liberal institutions and liberal bureaucracies and liberal unions have ruined lives for millions of poor people and trapped them in places of tremendous danger. And I think if Trump continues that, he's going to get a surprising share of the African-American vote by Election Day. I think with the Latino community, he has to emphasize, one, if you're here legally, I'm totally for you. You have every right to be here. I hire legal immigrants. I'm married to a legal immigrant. My mother was a legal immigrant. So I'm for immigrants who are here legally. Second, I'm for you having a better job, your child having a better education, you having more take-home pay, and you being physically safe. Those messages are pretty powerful, I think, and once people accept the fact that he is not anti-Hispanic, he's anti-illegality, I think, in fact, you'll see a lot of people who decide they want to give him a second look.
Dagan.
Newt, it's Dagan McDowell.
How are you?
Good to see you. What is he going to do, though, to focus on winning the critical Republican vote? He really needs to get to 90% or more of the Republican vote, and he needs to.
Well, that'll happen.
Tell me why then. And focusing on, too, that path to victory would be right through the Rust Belt. You know, Michigan, Wisconsin, right, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, focusing on securing and even building that vote.
Well, remember, first of all, that the tone he set this week, I just had a very close friend, a very, very smart former congressman, write me and say that he had listened to the North Carolina speech in the car, and that, frankly, it was the first time Donald Trump really resonated with him. I think as people realize that Trump is getting more disciplined, more focused, more issue-oriented, a lot of Republicans are going to come home very rapidly. Second, remember, you talk about the Rust Belt. But remember, the second largest Somali-American population in the United States is in Columbus, Ohio. There's a very substantial African-American community in Cleveland and in Cincinnati. There are Latinos all across the state of Ohio. So if you're going to be competitive in the Rust Belt, it's more than just organizing white males. It's bringing together a large coalition. What you're beginning to see this week is the general election Donald Trump, who understands, as one of the greatest marketers of our generation, that he has to reach out to millions of Americans who would not normally be Republican. And he's not asking them to be Republican. He's asking them to be Trump Americans. And his first most powerful pitch, frankly, is in the black community, where the problems are so enormous, Obama has failed so miserably, and where people are physically threatened. You realize in Chicago, about 3,500 Americans have been killed since Barack Obama became president, more than died in Iraq and Afghanistan combined.
Wow.
That's a community that needs a leader with the guts to come in and say, let's do things differently. And I think he's going to get a surprisingly large share of the black vote by Election Day.
Mr. Speaker, Donald Trump proved that he could get a lot of votes that Republicans don't typically get, and that's why he won the primary. He had a lot of people coming over voting Republican for the first time. How does he go back and get some of these never Trump Republicans? And by the way, they make me mad. I just can't believe anybody who says they're a Republican would go out and think it's okay to help Hillary Clinton become president. But how do we get those folks back, including the ones who personally signed an agreement when they ran for president and said that they would support the nominee?
Like you did.
Like I did.
Well, Governor, I have to call you Mike. To heck with all this stuff. We're such good friends. Listen, you know that there are two different things going on here. One is, I think, legitimate. I mean, if you're Bill Kristol and you have been for every losing war that we've fought, and you think losing a little more would be good, you ought to be for Hillary Clinton or somebody, because Donald Trump's not your candidate. And I don't object to that. These are people who have honest ideological differences because they see the world differently. But the folks who are out here who are somehow looking for a perfection test. You know, it's Donald Trump or perfection. Particularly if they're House and Senate members, you have to wonder if they don't need to have their heads examined for this reason. If Hillary Clinton wins, they got 4 more years of being the opposition party. They have 4 more years of executive orders. They have 4 more years of a president who constantly outmaneuvers them. On the other hand, with Trump, they're going to get 60 or 70 or 80% of what they want in a positive problem-solving way. So no Republican in the House and Senate should be confused about the future. A future with Hillary Clinton is not only unacceptable to guys like you and me because she's so radical and so corrupt and so dishonest, but also it ought to be unacceptable to them because it puts them in permanent opposition, and they get 4 more frustrating years.
Do you think he's going to be able to roll back the Iran deal? I mean, here we are all morning talking about the fact that now the Obama administration is admitting, yes, the $400 million was contingent on those American hostages coming home.
Look, the fact is the president lied because the president lies a lot. The president's spokesperson lied. The Secretary of State lied, which helps explain why Hillary lies so much. If you're a liberal Democrat, you cannot tell the truth and get elected in this country.
Well, there you go. Bottom line.
By the way, I want to just point out something just really quickly, Maria, that you asked earlier in the week that I did not have an answer to. But according to the Wall Street Journal, that remaining $1.3 billion has been paid to Iran. It was paid. And that's they confirmed that they had paid it, and they won't say how.
Newt, the question that
but remember, there's still another $150 billion.
Yeah, do people even understand when the next tranche is due to Iran?
No.
Yeah, I mean, because Congress was surprised with the $400 million. I mean, nobody knew that this cash was going there when it was going there.
This isn't the Obama-Clinton model of the world spends your money propping up our enemies while undermining our allies. It is the weirdest foreign policy in American history, and we just saw again they cannot sustain it honestly in public, so they have to lie about it over and over and over.
Newt, good to see you. Thanks so much, sir.
Good to be with you.
Newt.